Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here for our last panel session of the day. My name is Chris Spenner. I teach the research class here. We have a great group of student panelists and one parent joining us today. First, we'll have a few words from Ms. Chetty, who is the Science Department Chair and who is one of the key people, along with Wisdom, who put this whole symposium together for you today. So, Ms. Chetty, if you could join us.
Thank you to all you diehard fans that are still here at the end of the day. If you remember, if you were here when I first opened the Research Symposium this morning, I talked about why it is that we think it's important to have a day where there is no competition, there is no prize, and the only gift is the experience of being here and sharing. And I think that as we end this really incredibly successful, and thank you so much for coming, very successful symposium. Our 18th one, I really feel it was the best because of the attendance that we had. I think we have had over 800 people here today. So just amazing, so thank you. So if you think about the word experience and what it is that means, as our students speak to you, I want you to think about what it is that you as a student or you as a parent are really thinking about as far as the research process is concerned. What really is that? And I opened it this morning also by talking about what is it that you are trying to do when you're making great observations that are open-minded. What is it that you're doing when you're asking a research question? You are doing that yourself independently. You are developing skills that will take you into not only writing a great lab report or a great paper, it will also take you into life, and it will also allow us to move forward as a country and globally. These students are successful not because they decided they wanted to try for a competition or a prize. If you talk to them, and I know many of them very well, they are such great examples of what we want Harker students to look like when they're graduating. I really am so proud of this group, and I think that they have a lot of things to share with you, but the one thing I know about them is their passion just simply for research, not for a competition. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the person that introduced me, which is Mr. Spenner, who has been our research teacher and has really guided this whole program forward for so many years. So, Mr. Spenner, I'll let you and the students take it away, and then I'll close it at the end.
All right, I'm going to ask the students to introduce themselves first, and if you could just, panelists, just tell us your name and your grade and your earliest memory of actually doing science, not just for a school assignment, but the first thing you remember doing that was kind of scientific. We'll start on the far end with John. They didn't know I was going to do this, so I'm kind of putting them on the spot.
Okay, hi, I'm Jacqueline, and I'm a junior. My first memory of doing a scientific experiment was in second grade, where we grinded up cereal and we used a magnet to extract the iron.
Excellent, second grade, thank you. Sasha?
My name is Sasha, and I'm in 12th grade, and my earliest memory doing science was going to the Maker Fair in kindergarten.
Hi, my name is Melody. I'm currently a junior, and my earliest memory of science is probably trying to make slime in 4th grade.
Hi, I'm Arnav. I'm a senior. My earliest memory is building balsa wood airplanes in 1st grade.
Hi, I'm Arjun. My earliest memory is probably the elementary school science fair, making paper airplanes and testing out which design was the best. And then I ran out of time, so I may or may not have fabricated data for the rest of the project.
Exactly, that's a really good cross here, thanks. And we have Sasha's mom with us today, is Geeta Hiremath. And I'll ask you to share, if you would, your earliest memory of Sasha discovering science.
I think 3rd grade, when she had to do the whole experiment and present it in the class. Yeah, she did the vinegar and baking soda and the baking soda effect on different juices. So she was so excited with looking at all the foaming coming up and measuring, and she really enjoyed it.
All right, thank you. These are all great students. I like Ms. Chetty. Oh, yeah. And I'll remind the participants to keep the microphones kind of close to your mouth just to make sure it's getting through the speakers. So we have some sage advice for you from these students. I'm going to get straight to it. First, a quick overview of the support programs that we offer here. They will dig into these in much more detail. We have research expeditions. Those were kind of put on pause during the pandemic, but they'll be coming back soon. We have the Open Lab program, which allows students access to our facilities to do their own projects outside of normal school hours. We have the academic program, that will be the classes that I teach, plus the actual science department curriculum that often is supportive of these projects. And we have a vast array of clubs, including Wisdom and the Research Club, many, many others. Huge array of possibilities for students to pursue interests. So the panelists will talk about these more specifically. We also have support for various competitions. This is just a partial list of what's possible. There's more than I can keep track of. USAYPT is a physics-focused competition. GSHS is kind of the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. It's really more about the sciences. That is an annual program we send students to. Regeneron STS competition you may have heard of. Michelle did pretty well there. So that is one of the big ones. And then the Synopsis competition is our regional science fair that leads to the California State Science Fair. It also leads to the ISEF International Science Fair. All right. So we've got some slides. Panelists, feel free to refer back, but partly I think in the interest of time, if you want to just pick out the most important highlights from your slide, let the audience read the details on there, but we'll just get the story from Jacqueline.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Spenner. So I think one of the main reasons to do science research in high school is because you get to apply the knowledge that you learn in school to actually contributing to discoveries that could have an impact on other people. During this process, I think you learn a lot of new stuff. So if you ask any person who does science research in high school, you'll be really amazed by how much background knowledge they know in the fields related to the research. And I think that this is a really good skill to have. Furthermore, I think getting to know other people who do research, whether it be your peers or other people at your lab, such as graduates, students, postdocs, or professors, is really inspiring. And for me, before I started doing research, I liked physics a lot, but sometimes I thought it was a bit boring. But after doing research, seeing other people who I really looked up to talk about research so passionately really made me like physics a lot more. And finally, although research helps you a lot with writing skills, presentation skills, and can also definitely help for college applications, I think the main reward of doing research is seeing the fruits of all of your work, of years of hard work, overcoming challenges, and being really proud of that. And one last thing is, research is very different from doing schoolwork. At school, people give you instructions step by step, and as long as you follow what your teachers want you to do, you can pretty much get a good grade. But in research, you're doing a project that no one has ever done before. No one knows how to approach it, or if there even is a solution. So having the courage to be able to persevere and try to figure out the solution to a problem that you're really passionate about is a really hard and challenging process, but once you overcome that and see the fruits of your work, it's really rewarding.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Physics boring. I'm going to blame the college board for that. Okay, so now we'll have a couple students share their 4-year paths. Part of the point of this is that there's really many ways to go about doing science research at Harker. There is no one single correct path, so we'll give you a couple samples. And Sasha here.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Sasha again, and I started doing research from a very young age because I went to a different school than Harker for elementary and middle school, and we had required science fairs, so I just participated in those. And in 5th grade was the first time I really did a project on my own. And I did one on solar panels because every day on my way to school I'd pass by the solar farm, and I noticed a lot of harmful environmental effects that were coming from it. And I thought it was interesting that although my dad had told me that solar panels were like the way for the future, they had so many environmental harms. So I did projects on solar panels in 5th grade, projects that had already been done online. I just wanted to try it out on my own. And then in middle school, I started trying to want to do my own projects. I tried finding a mentor, and it was really hard for me to do so because neither my parents or anyone that they knew was interested in the type of research that I was doing. And I tried reaching out to a few people with no success. So I decided to continue doing my own solar projects on my own and building my solar panels from scratch. And it took a lot of work from like reading papers online to contacting professors who wrote the papers to find out more about the field. And I continued to do independent research in middle school. Coming into high school, it was like the COVID year, so I decided to try to do a program where I did a computational research project, still pertaining to energy. However, I didn't enjoy that as much as doing like physical projects and being able to experiment on my own in my backyard. So I decided to try out for the science fair that year, and I continued to use my own independent solar projects. For the next few years, I tried more mentorship programs over the summers, and it was really fun to learn from people who are so experienced in the field. But for me, since I was interested in a very niche topic of solar panels, I found it was easier for me to do my independent research field to explore what I truly wanted to see, because sometimes when you go into a lab, you have to work on a project that they're already working on, and that may not suit your interest. So here are some of the, on this slide, you can see some of the competitions and some of the conferences that I've attended. And it was really valuable for me to be able to go to conferences and network with people and to meet people who are interested in the same field as me. And this is just to show you that there's so many different ways you can take your project, if not just science fair, which is the main one that I did, but there's also, you can write a paper on it, which I ended up doing my junior year. I wrote my own paper and submitted it for a conference, and there's many other conferences you can attend as well to learn from people.
Great, thank you very much. And Arjun will share some of his background.
So, unlike Sasha, I guess my research experience differed kind of in the way that I didn't get access to any wet lab research for the first half of my high school experience. I think a lot of people have kind of the expectation to jump right into the lab and kind of, be hunched over at a lab station working on with bacteria or cell cultures or mice models. But I think my experience is really a testament to the fact that your experience doesn't have to start off like that or be like that entirely. So starting in 9th grade, I really wanted to have that typical experience, but I wasn't able to get any professors or even conduct my own independent project. And so what I did was I wrote a review paper. I didn't actually have to go to a lab or do anything. I just did a literature search from the comfort of my home, just using Google and other journals. And I wrote a paper basically summarizing all the emerging research in a field. And my research concentrated around different approaches to treating Alzheimer's disease. And I think that was a really valuable introduction to research because it taught me first how other people do research by having to read so many different other people's research, and I think that's a really valuable experience for people. And then on the slide you can see in grade 10 I got to writing a paper, that review paper, and actually publishing that, and going through that process was also really valuable. Then 11th grade I had the opportunity to actually jump into wet lab research, both here at Harker. I also managed to get an internship at Stanford during the school year, which was more of a computational neuroscience internship. And then the summer after my junior year, I did another internship at Stanford, which was more wet lab stuff, focusing on cardiovascular research. Another cool thing I wanted to point out is actually Arnav and I did a competition called BioEHSC. It's a really cool theoretical competition. You don't actually have to do any wet lab research. You basically get to explore the whole breadth of your imagination and kind of come up with a theoretical project and business pitch. So if anyone's more interested in the business side of science as well, that's a really cool opportunity. I also did the Breakthrough Junior Challenge. I'm really interested in kind of combining science with storytelling, and so the purpose of that competition is to use video editing and animation to describe scientific topics in a really easy way. And that was also another cool opportunity to me to explore both research but also the communication of research. And then finally this year, I'm also doing another internship at Stanford this coming summer, also in cardiovascular research, and I also took the advanced research class.
Great. We're and there's some time here. I'm gonna remind the panelists to try. That was great. I'm glad we got the whole story, but we'll try to keep it to like under a minute per slide here because we got quite a bit of ground to cover still. The research classes. So Arjun and Jacqueline both have a few words to share about those. Arjun, can you go first?
Yeah, so I took the research methods class in 11th grade. It was a really great introduction to research. Mr. Spenner kind of covers like experimental statistics, like if you've ever heard of p-values or anything like that, we go over that. We get to do some introductory research projects. And then the really cool aspect of that class, I think, was the journal clubs. Every person gets to pick a journal article, and each person does a new one each week. They have like from basically every single realm of science, and it's really cool to get some breadth and see like your peers' thoughts on articles and break down really complex scientific information.
Yeah, so in addition to the research methods class, there's also an advanced research class, which I think people can take if they already have a they're currently working on a research project. I think the best part about this class is that during the school year, because there's so much schoolwork, we often don't have much time to dedicate to research. So during the research class, we have a lot of free time to actually work on our projects. In addition to that, we can also ask Mr. Spenner any questions we have about our projects, and he's really helpful in guiding us. And one of the most valuable parts that I took out of the research class is getting to know what other people in my class were doing. So initially, I went into the research class with a few internships over the summer, but I didn't really know how other people at Harker did research. But after hearing summaries and more in-depth explanations of other people's work, it really helped me understand the landscape of research at Harker.
Great, thank you. And I'll just add to that very briefly that the intro class is really for anybody, any grade level after 9th grade can take it, and you can just be interested and curious, or you can already have some experience in a real lab even and just want to shore up the foundations. And the advanced class is more of an independent study like Japanese. And I mentioned earlier the Open Lab program. Arjun also has some experience with that, and if you could describe your experience.
So yeah, again in junior year, I took the research methods class and I learned about the Open Lab program. I basically did an independent project. It's really cool. Most other schools don't allow you to do this, but Harker has, you can get decent funding to do an independent project. Obviously it has to be like doable at Harker, but we still have really great resources. A brand new sequencer this year, as I'm sure may have been covered earlier today. We also have like a really cool microbiome setup to do basically most experiments that a high schooler could want to do. And with that research, I did compete in synopsis. And Mr. Kelly or Mr. Spenner generally mentors that research, so you have a guiding hand throughout that process.
Yeah, the supervisor of that program changes over the years. I'm generally there. And it's often not about, I mean, yes, you have access to fancy equipment, but remember you can also do very valid science with no equipment at all. All right. So I think this is the section we're going to try to shave some time off. I'm going to skip through a few of these slides. If you want to snap photos, go ahead. There's many bullet points. I'll pick out a couple of questions and maybe pose them to our panelists to highlight. There's a couple of slides I know that we'll go into more detail. We did a slide. Okay, so Sasha, you're going to tell us about the kind of overview first?
Yeah. So there are multiple types of summer programs that you can be a part of to do research. So there are academic programs, and those programs are basically a lot of colleges offer like summer courses in specific STEM subjects. And you just apply for those with your grades, some essays maybe, and also maybe some of the activities that you do. And usually part of these academic programs, you get to do like a project that applies what you're learning through those courses. Another type is like a clinical internship or shadowing. So this is more if you're interested in medicine, you would like contact a doctor and maybe like follow them around for the summer, help them with small tasks. Or there are certain programs that allow for you to like do clinical internships and just like learn basic things like doing sutures and stuff like that. And the last one is just having a research internship that can either be through programs, like I mentioned, you applied for those earlier, but those are a little different than the college courses ones. These are just ones where it's like solely you're doing research the whole summer, or you can also cold email and get an internship that way.
Yeah, just in the past 10 years, I'd say there's been a proliferation of summer program opportunities for students, especially during the pandemic in some ways. So there's more than I can keep track. And so, I mean, there's some bullet points there. Unless anybody has anything particular they want to share here, that's just kind of an overview of what it means to do a summer internship. Often there are social elements to it. Does anybody want to share a highlight from a summer program where you had some kind of social experience? Yeah, so just a highlight from a summer program where you had maybe like a social experience, like there was a field trip to the city or whatever you did.
Yeah, so I did an internship last summer in Rolla, Missouri, where there's not much to do there. But I definitely met a lot of people from around the country, and it's really fun to see like the nature in that area. We visited a lot of lakes, and we got to go cliff jumping, so that was cool.
I did SIP in like 2 years ago, but I also like continued a year after that. Like, though it was virtual, I went back in person the year after, and it was like really fun to just hang out with people the same age, or also like working on publications, etc.
Yeah, cool. There you go, cliff jumping. You can do it. All right, finding research internship. So there's 2 pages for this one. Who wants to cover the first one?
Okay, yeah, I can just quickly cover this. So summer programs, you should like look at the websites for deadlines. Keep on top of those, because if you miss a deadline, then that kind of sucks. But you have to like write a few essays. It's kind of like practice college applications. Not the most fun, but yeah. And you can apply to many summer programs. There's some like RSI, SIP, like BU Rise, SSB, which are like really prestigious summer programs. They don't let you do like as much research as a research internship at like a university, I would say. But there's also other like values to programs like that.
Yeah, and I'll just amending the slide a little bit. The deadlines have moved up, if anything. So deadlines start hitting in like late November, December even, and they stretch out all the way into April. So it's a lot to keep track of, so you want to be really organized on that.
Also, like, please be mindful if you're asking your teachers for letters of rec to ask them fairly in advance. I know I've sent a few urgent emails to Mr. Spenner, and I'm sure that wasn't the most appreciated, so please keep on top of that.
It's fine. If I've already written a letter, I can adjust it pretty quickly. But yeah, it is good advice, right? I'd say at least 2 weeks in advance, a month of advance notice is really the best option. And then some more information on another, so that first route was kind of directly applying to programs. This is the other route, which is cold calling or cold emailing. Who's going to cover this one?
Okay, so you're gonna have to send out a lot of emails if you're wanting to like get a research internship, because professors frankly don't care too much about your emails. I'd say keep the like body of your message really short. Attach a resume with like relevant research experiences. I had to send out like over 100 different emails, and I got maybe like 10 responses back, 9 of which were negative, and I finally got 1. So expect rejection, it's gonna happen, and just know it's not necessarily anything about you, just professors have a lot of other stuff they have to do. But I think it's definitely a valuable experience, and if you do get a research internship, it's a really cool opportunity over the summer or during the school year even.
Okay, we'll have a couple of you share your more direct stories about that process. Sasha?
Yeah, so I've done a few internships. So the first one I did was SSI, and that was the summer for freshman year, and that was a computational project that I did, where I did a project about determining, based on real-time weather conditions, which type of renewable energy was the best to use at a certain time of the day. And that was a really cool project for me, because my first time doing a computational project, so that program was valuable. It also made me realize I preferred not to do computational projects. So even if like every internship is valuable, or any program you do is valuable, just because you get to find out like what specific type of science am I interested in doing. So even if you don't continue it after, and I continue to do my independent research, it was still a learning experience for me. The next program I did was iResearch program, which was the next summer. And this one was with a postdoc microbial researcher, and it was a computational project, but it wasn't the same type of like data science project I've done in the past. It was one using more CRISPR and finding ways to increase the longevity of biogenic solar panels, so it's more related to what I was interested in. So that was a really valuable experience for me as well. I would say these programs, like Arjun mentioned, are very helpful, but they also don't allow you to do as much research. That's just because they have like certain things that they want to teach you in the program alongside doing research, so you don't get as much hands-on experience. So if you're a type of person that wants to work more so directly on a project, I'd recommend doing more independent research or an internship. The next program I did was at Missouri S&T University. It was a SPARK program, and that program I had actually met someone who, at a conference, who invited me to come work at that program last summer, and I did a chemistry project on geothermal energy systems, so that was also really cool. And overall, just about programs in general, it's really hard to get into some of these programs. Like, I was rejected from all the programs that I applied to last year, and it just took meeting someone at a conference to be able to land the internship that I had. And I also sent over 200 cold emails, and unlike Arjun, I was not successful. I got 200 rejections back. So just knowing that you can still do your own project on your own, if you just read literature online, be able to put in the effort, contact people like professors who write papers and stuff like that, they're all willing to talk to you. There's many different things you can do if programs or internships don't pan out.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just highlight how crucial a part of the process it is that students encounter failure and setbacks. That's part of research. That's part of life. It's part of the self-discovery of high school. So a frequent mistake that I see being made or a poor assumption is that you can kind of plan your path out, plan the road, and expect it to go smoothly. That's almost never the way it goes. Arnav?
Yeah, so I started out in after 10th grade with the SIP program where I did astrophysics. I actually had a pretty different experience. My mentor gave me a lot of freedom to sort of explore and also see where my research takes me. So I was able to convince him to let us, or me, go travel to Hawaii for the head conference happening that year and present there. And I used that opportunity to go out and meet people. I had done some exploring in computational astronomy, and I saw okay, these are the big names, up-and-coming researchers who've done a lot of work, who were recognized. And then I went out, sort of just quickly researched what they have so I can get some common ground. And then just talk to them, and that's how I was able to land a job at the Harvard and Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, where I worked the summer afterwards. I also did some other projects. I worked at ASU, I still am actually, for electrical engineering projects, as well as Texas A&M for some machine learning CS projects. I guess my research experience is sort of an example of you don't have to stick with what you come in with, because I came into high school having a bunch of research in drug discovery, and I just went every other way.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's take care of the internships. Another maybe culminating aspect of doing research, maybe even formative along the way, is writing a paper. And we're giving presentations, so we'll give some advice for this. Again, we'll try to keep it under a minute per slide.
Hi, okay, it's been a hot second.
Oh, Melody, I'd like to speak up.
Yes, so I'm just going to cover the points in the slides pretty quickly by relating it to my own research experience writing papers. So for a little bit of context, every year that I've done a research project, I've written a research paper. Whether I publish it or not is another question, but basically I've learned a couple main takeaways from writing a paper every year. And I think one of the most important ones is to start early, because a research paper, even though it's only 10 pages, which might make you think it's not that much work, I could probably just write it out in one night like I did with an English essay. No, there's actually so much more that goes into it. There's creating figures and all of that. And so you want to go into your internship or your summer program or whatever research project that you're doing, knowing if you're going to write a paper or not. Because more often than not, you can actually structure the way that you prepare for your research project around writing a paper. For example, for me, when I was doing background research for my research project, I kept a notebook of all the publications that were relevant so that I could go back and find my annotations 6 months after and still find the sections that I found important to help explain the motivations behind my research project. And just setting up that kind of groundwork for you to be able to reference back to everything much more easily in the future makes writing a paper so much more easily. And it's also crucial to understand that you can take advantage of the resources that are given to you. So for example, if you're doing an internship, your mentor is an expert in the area that you're going to be doing a research project in. So you should ask them, well, you should give them a little bit of time at least, but you should ask them to help review your paper because they're going to know what they're talking about. They can point out any mistakes that you might be making or some attributions that you might have missed that they think would be important in this specific community. And also, being a student at Harker, we have a lot of resources at hand. For example, Mr. Spenner, I've asked him to review my research paper before, my biology teacher, a lot of Harker staff are really, really willing to help out with you because they're really passionate about helping us actually conduct proper and genuine research that is worth publishing.
Next slide, sorry.
Oh, next slide.
Yeah, so I just have like some extra tips on like writing papers, since I've had to write an unfortunately large amount. I think the most important thing is to sort of stress your goals and motivations. The introduction section is like one of the most important sections. You should like try explaining to yourself why what you did is worth it, why you did it, and sort of the entire thought process. You have to like sort of connect the impact that you had with the goal you started with, and also like try to tell a story if you can. Research papers are supposed to be like, they're not like writing an English essay you want to take out as much language as possible, but you can still sort of like structure it, go through your procedure, and if you were careful with how you structure your discussion and your results, you can sort of walk the reader through your point of view. You also have to remember like what your goals are when you're writing a paper. Is it like a report that your mentor is forcing you to do? Is it something that you're going to then reuse for like, let's say, a poster for a conference or something else? Or is it for publication? And then you like tweak the amount of effort, the length, etc. But usually, just in general, you want to be as concise as possible.
Yeah, so there's some good lessons there for any kind of writing, right? Be aware of who your audience is. And oral presentation, is Arnav still?
Yeah. So I guess I'm just going to emphasize like you really need to know your audience. I've presented at like a variety of settings. I've been at like generic conferences like the AAS or like high energy concentrated conferences. The amount of background you need, sometimes like I remember when I went to like a more general conference in astronomy, like half my poster was background information because sometimes you get this like sort of illusion after working in this field, in a certain field for a long time, that like everybody knows what you're talking about and it's just like common vernacular. But that's not the case. You have to sort of start from the beginning. It's better to like safely assume that somebody doesn't know what you're talking about and just like remind them again than to like completely dive in using jargon and other such things that like confuse people. Also, you need to like adjust the length and depth of your talk. What I recommend is that you have a drawn out explanation of your project from like a more storytelling perspective of where you started, why you did this, how you did this. But you also prepare like a quick 2-minute or less elevator pitch that, you know, people coming by that you want to network with are going to ask about, like, what did you do, why, like, what's the actual impact, what did you get out of this, and what is the community going to get out of it?
Great, thank you. And Melanie?
Yeah, so we've already talked about 2 main ways for you to display your work, and this is the third and final way that we're going to be discussing today, and that is poster presentations. So this is probably one of the most notorious aspects of research at Harker. A lot of the times, people will focus on a specific science fair. But basically, the way that a poster works is you have to sum up an entire year's worth of research on a 4x5 feet board, or even less in some cases. And because of that, it's important that you really go back and realize what main lessons you're planning to impart. For me, before I go into my poster, the way that I store a lot of my research is through maintaining a Google slide deck that gets pretty long by the end of the year. But it's a way for me to basically just like, I just duplicate that Google slide, I cut it down, I try to make the slides as concise as possible, and then look for the main themes. And there are obviously a lot of other ways that people go around making poster boards, but that's the way that works for me. Outside of just science competitions, a lot of the times research conferences will also have a poster session. Those are also really valuable. I went to one at for, and it was really amazing to see everyone's research. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll just reiterate the documentation part. If you're not carefully tracking what you're doing as you go through a project, you're not really doing science. All right, so we've got one more section here on competitions, conferences, and publication.
It's me again. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, one of the most popular science fairs at Harker is Synopsis. And basically, this is the Santa Clara County Science Fair. They just like to go under Synopsis. And this basically qualifies you for CSEF and ISEF, which are the international and statewide science fairs. This is an opportunity for you to basically get to share your work with a wide range of people, from either parent judges to people who have been working in this field as a professor for like decades. And projects are generally divided into two categories, RRI and non-RRI. There's a lot more specific logistics that I can get into if you guys are interested. You can come find me after the meeting. But basically, the most important thing about Synopsis logistics with regards to Harker is that it requires faculty sponsorship. And similar to what Arnav mentioned about teacher recommendations, it's important that you communicate clearly with them and give them enough time to make a decision.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that one as well. We have a pretty carefully thought out process for how to get into Synopsis, and there's a couple different routes. Track school announcements very carefully if you're interested in doing that in your school. And Sasha, ISEF.
Yeah, so ISEF is one of the competitions that Melody mentioned that you can qualify to from your regional fair. You can also qualify from your regional fair to CSEF, which is the state fair, and then you can qualify to ISEF from CSEF as well, so not just through the regional fair. And ISEF is basically an international competition, and students from 70 plus different countries can qualify to ISEF, and you can meet them there. And the judges that you get there are a lot higher caliber than the judges you get at the regional fair. These are people who have been working in the field for like 7+ years. They have PhDs, doctorates, things like that. And it's a week-long trip. I've gone twice myself, and it was such an amazing experience to meet people from so many different walks of life. And they also have many fun social events, like a dance and things like that, where you get to network with people. And as I mentioned earlier, that's actually how I met someone where I was able to get my internship last summer, working on a project that I was actually interested in, and really just the research that I was doing, because I was able to talk to professionals from different fields and just learn a lot about other people's work, which is really cool.
Great, thank you. And the U.S. Young Physicist Tournament. That's Arnav and Jacqueline.
Okay, so this is a physics tournament that's held in, I think, February, early February. And you get the entire year to work on a set of 4 different problems. And there's not really a right answer to the question. It's more like an open-ended question. And the great thing about this is you get a lot of time to work on it. You can collaborate with other people at your school. And you can also collaborate with the physics teachers.
Yeah, so I think YPT is one of like the greatest experiences and like really, really underrated. I remember my year, our project was, we were trying to calculate, you have to find your coordinates without using like any technology invented since the marine chronometer. So there was a lot of, the method that we came up with was that, I mean obviously you can find your latitude using the sun, but for your longitude, we measured transits of Jupiter's moons and borrowed Dr. Breda's telescope to do so. I think that with YPT, the biggest consideration is your team. I've seen like, in 10th grade, we had a solid year before we got like stopped by weather a little bit and couldn't go to part of the competition. And in part, that was because like everybody was like really engaged and on the same page about what's the pace of working. I've also seen like years like, I guess this year, which was pretty unsuccessful because like there was not that much, I guess, collaboration.
Yeah, sure. Good takeaway there. Right? Turns out the people around you matter, and communicating well with them matters. Great, thank you. I'll add to that too, because I used to sponsor this program when I taught 9th grade physics. It is a great program, part of the fun, I think. Especially if you can, there's many roles you can play. You can do the investigation part, but you can also travel and take part in these kind of physics debates, right? Other schools who investigate the same problems, and then you get to kind of hash out the details with it. All right, JSHS. Oh.
Hi, okay, so for the last like regional science fair that we're going to be talking about today, I'm going to be covering JSHS. So this is short for the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, yeah, something like that. But basically, GSHS is really interesting in comparison to Synopsis because in order to qualify, you have to write a paper and then submit it for review. And if they deem your paper worthy, then they will allow you to go to the actual fair. And that creates generally a little bit of a different environment from Synopsis, not saying which one's better, but like no shade. It does create a little bit of a different vibe. A lot of the people there are also similarly to Synopsis, really passionate about research, and both fairs are really interesting and valuable experiences. So you can qualify to the regional fair through your research paper, and then to the national fair if the judges rank you high enough in that regional area, basically.
Yeah, thank you. JSHS kind of comes and goes over the years, but the students who've done it in the past, when they advance, they have really good experiences when they travel and go to the higher levels of the fair. All right, last question on SDS.
Right, so this is like a senior-only competition, and you need like a 20-page maximum research paper. And it's more than just your paper, it's sort of like college applications. I would say it's like maybe 2 or 3 colleges worth of college apps. You have a lot of essays to write. I think the thing to consider here is that you need to like really think about why you're doing it. They moved it in so that now the deadline is like basically the same time as earlies. So if you're only doing it for college, you're gonna like really sabotage your chances. I think a good motivation for SDS is that like you want to get some feedback on how your like long-term research project has been going, where you want to like, I mean, if like basically if you're not trying to do something besides just like get it for college apps, then I would say it's a pretty good motivation. I think that there are some considerations though. SDS isn't for all projects, and this is something that I didn't realize. If you're doing like more theoretical physics, that's like I did, that's not the best idea. This is probably best for, I would say, like more biological projects, and especially like computational ones, where you have a lot of data, a lot of documentation on your data and analysis.
Or perhaps convex second-order optimization problems like Michelle. Great, thank you. And so now we'll go to Sasha's mother, Geeta, who will tell us a little bit from the parent perspective.
All the different ways, all the resources available at Harker and outside. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how you can get your child interested and how you make them independent and they can go on to do great things. So I think the most important thing is first to expose them to STEM by taking them to public days in all these different science fairs. There are many in the Bay Area, in all the different counties. So check on them and take your kids so that, and also Tech Challenge is another great one where you get to do build some very interesting projects, and Maker Fair. So by doing all these, you're kind of exposing your children whether they are interested in STEM. And then you expose, and then they can start working on doing very simple projects and learning about the scientific method. And so that kind of, pushes them into what they want to do and start thinking about it. So as a parent, just be there to support them and don't get too involved in their projects. I've seen it, Tech Challenges, where parents get very excited about the projects. So I think that's the main thing. What we did with Sasha was basically providing her the support that she needed, and because we are from, even though both of us are engineers, we have not dealt with solar panels and the things she was planning to do, like in chemistry and things. So we kind of, showed her how you can go do your own research, go read papers, how to get the papers, and reach out to different professors in different colleges or your own teachers. And so this kind of made her very independent, and she did everything on her own. Coming up with really interesting projects. So I think the main idea is expose them, then plant a seed, and then watch them grow. Like make them, science fair does not only show the research, but also it gives them confidence to present in front of really capable judges. If you have done everything on your own, you've learned everything, you know everything, you will not be afraid to present in front of anybody and answer any questions. That confidence there, so it builds a multiple multiple things by doing research and presenting. So then they go on, I think basically what have them expose them to STEM and progress in there. I think in high school, of course, they're going to go on and do much bigger research and apply to all these internships and all. If they have done all these researches and independently, then it's very easy for them to present themselves for any of these opportunities. So I think my main advice to parents is make them independent, let them learn on their own, and you be there to support, buying materials or answering any questions. Early on, they will have a lot of questions about how everything works. So, try to teach them, don't do the projects for them. I think that's
excellent, thank you. And I'll just reiterate the whole issue of failure. It's not really even clear what it means to fail at science. If you do some procedures and you get something not what you wanted, you can still learn from that, right? Maybe you've learned not to do those procedures or something you can always communicate to the science community. The key thing is that the student has that room to just try something and see what happens. Thank you so much, everybody, all panelists, for your contributions. I'll get my cues now. Do you want to do the Q&A, or do you want to go ahead and close? Okay, so I'll make this Jenny up to give us some final words. Thank you all for your time, and thank you again to the panelists.
So in closing, I can imagine that if you are from the middle school or the lower school, that coming to the upper school and seeing what some of these students have done can sometimes feel overwhelming, and just wondering, how do I begin? What do we do? I think you've taken the first step. You've come to the Research Symposium. You now can see what is possible. You now know who the people are that you can contact and get more information from. And I hope that you've gotten some ideas about what you might want to pursue. In other words, what my child or what I as a student, what am I most passionate about? If I don't know, then I should explore, I should search out. And it's not going to be easy. It will be challenging for you to find it, but once you do, and they all did, I think that you will find it very, very gratifying. Please do reach out to me if you have questions, if you have ideas, or you've come across something you're not sure. Please reach out to me. You can also, we have a research and competitions page that we've created that is actually for upper school students, but we do not mind sharing if you want some resources from there. But I think you've done the right thing, the first step, which is to get as informed as possible and then start from here. Most of these students have been coming to the Research Symposium for many, many years, ever since they were little. And so each time they come, they learn a little bit more. There are tremendous resources at Harker and people who know how it is that you can plan out your sort of your research goals. But remember what Mr. Spenner said, which is it's not like there's a plan, like there's no 4-year plan. It's not like that. It's going to be different for everyone. So, having said that, it's been a long day, and I want to say thank you so much for being here. We are one community, so if you are at a different school, please feel free to reach out. We hope to see you again. It'll be our 19th year next year, and we will do it all over again. And so thank you so much for being here, and have a good rest of the weekend.